Q&A. So get your hands up and we'll get microphones to you. I wanted to start by saying congratulations for making a really nuanced film, I think, really about dealing with some really blue touch paper issues. You've got school shootings, hate crime, the juvenile justice system, all of those in there. But to me, at its heart, it was about the impact of abuse and neglect, really, on two young people, the terrible impact. What drew you to tell the story of what happened at Oxnard at EO Green School?
I think the coverage of the story, to be honest. I read, the first blurb that I read was in the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is a human rights, civil rights quarterly that comes out. And that was really just a factual kind of media coverage. But I read a really disturbing piece in a very popular magazine. I won't say who it was, but it's a very kind of well-established and respected magazine. And I was so horrified by the simpleness and the simple-mindedness of the coverage that it angered me to like a very serious degree that I had to do a film about it. I mean, it was like, how could they make Larry the bully? Like what, what? I was just blown away. And I really didn't have a lot of empathy for Brandon until I sat in the hearings.
That was
While I
my
was
question.
doing my
When
research.
did that start? Because
Well,
it's
he was
really
a kid in
Yeah.
an adult courtroom, and it just felt very wrong. And like it shouldn't be happening at all, and there should be a law against this. But yet it was a reverse, where it was like more and more kids across the United States are getting tried as adults. And there's a problem here too with that, as well as from what the research I did. So that was disturbing enough to where I said, okay, the coverage is pretty much making either kid a monster or both kids monsters, or kid, I don't relate to these people, and I didn't think that was fair.
Okay, well, I'm sure you've got lots of questions, so don't be shy. Get your hand up. Have we got anyone? Okay, I can see we're kind of going down this side, so at the back there. Do we have a mic to get
It's
to you?
fine, I can project, it's fine.
Okay.
How did you go about beginning getting access to tell the story?
I went to the kids, and I went into a high school, and like with a backpack and some ripped jeans and a little undercover. And I'm older than I look, but I pulled it off somehow. So I had a meeting actually with a teacher who, was very much like, just go to the front and ask for me, but don't wait around too long, and meet me over here by the tree, by the squirrel, by the nuts, it was like very, because for whatever reason they were, she was terrified of getting fired. Like absolutely terrified of getting fired and causing, disruption in this kind of hate zone that unfortunately she worked in. So she introduced me to the kids, and the kids were just like, finally, someone cares about what's happening to us.
And how receptive were all the other people that you interviewed in the process?
Everybody was really receptive. It's like a domino effect, and when the defense attorneys said that they would talk to me, then I told the prosecutor that I was talking to the defense, and then they were like, well, I don't talk to you, and they didn't get the last word. And then it was just kind of, with the adults it was like that. With the kids it was totally different, but with the adults, it was, besides Kendra, I met Kendra, the mother of Brandon, really early on. And when she understood that I was going to make Brandon a human being in my film, she wanted to be a part of it.
Okay, so maybe I'm going to get microphones to you.
Firstly, thank you for making that film, and I hope it gets screened, especially across the States, because I think a lot of kids my age and younger need to see it to understand just how we behave towards each other. But I was wondering if any of your contributors have seen the film, or if they haven't, how do you think they'll react, especially the jury members?
I think they're going to be excited to see themselves on the screen. I do.
Trader Joe's wine around.
Yeah, maybe some Malbec. I honestly think they're going to be excited to see themselves because that's how they feel about it. They're not holding back, and that's how they feel. I mean, I know it's surprising, but I honestly think they'll, and they haven't seen it because I've been traveling so much with the festival, and honestly, I think it's coming out in fall and HBO, so pretty much everyone has HBO at home, so they could just watch it on HBO.
Hi.
Hey.
So I've actually seen your film before, but again, it
Right.
yeah, it very much strikes me. And I think I realize actually why in this time, because it's very close to where I grew up and it's very similar. I mean, I could imagine that actually very much happening
The
where-
inland empire.
Inland, yeah. My question is, you know, this took place in the very similar area, in the same general area that the Rodney King trials were as well, right? And so I'm just wondering, what's your personal thought about how much Brandon being white was brought into play, and you know, whether that was obviously talked about, him getting off in the way that he did.
It depends who you ask.
Obviously.
Yeah, so, you know, some people definitely felt that the sentence that he's serving, the 21 years, you know, has a lot to do with him being white. Or the jurors being so, like, effusive about, like, oh, he's cute, and, you know. But honestly, I think the media coverage was like that, too. I mean, one AP story I read said that he looked collegiate with his swept back hair, like swept back, like he were a romance novel with Fabio or something. It was like really odd. So I think it just depends on, you know, your perspective. Yeah, I mean, it varies so heavily, but there's definitely people who felt that it was unfair.
Does the school now have a GSA or?
Nope. Not a.
I thought it was an incredible film, really thought-provoking. One thing I noticed was the use of music throughout the film. Other sort of programs and films I've seen with serious and disturbing subjects like this use very somber, sad music, but the music you chose was quite upbeat, bearing in mind that the subject matter. Was that a conscious decision?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with music, so yes. I'm a total muso geek.
And that it wouldn't be
Completely.
all very sort of somber, sad music.
Yeah, because it's about a young person, and I wanted youth to feel like a part of this. And sometimes in docs, it can be kind of like a 40 and up crowd, and I'm 42, so I can say that. So I feel like it's really important, if we're going to be talking about people who are young, to be able to relate to them more than just with words, but with music, and I love music, so.
And how long did it take you to make the film?
It took 5 years. I feel like I should have like a master's degree or something.
Have we got any over here? We'll come to you.
Hi. How difficult was it for you to maintain that sort of neutrality, the
It was really hard,
impartiality?
Debbie. It was
Yeah.
super hard.
Because you did it really well, and I think that's what's so unusual about that story. Is you know, as you said before, in the media, you're always presented a very angled
Yeah.
story from one side or the other. And it just must have been incredibly
It was
difficult.
so hard. It was really a morally, kind of ethically charged occasion every time we sat down to edit. And, you know, both of my editors were Jewish. And I picked people, it was very hard to find editors who were able to be neutral. And I picked people who had the empathy and understood Larry and had, you know, the judgment about a neo-Nazi child from Ventura County, but still the humanity aspect and still see him as a child. The children, you know, in this film get so judged as adults. And I really wanted to make sure that I picked people who maybe even had kids. I mean, there had to be some level of, you know, I understand even though I don't agree kind of attitude going on. But it was really hard. There was a lot of like growling. And then, okay, let's go back to work and be neutral again. But there was a lot of talk and a lot of kind of aggravation that was let go of. and before we, did our work, and during, the time we did our work.
The teacher who talked about heaven and hell and the consequences of Larry's actions, is she still in employment?
Her last day was yesterday. What day are we? Sunday? Friday.
Or she's being checked out.
Oh, she retired. Yeah.
Could we pass the microphone around the room?
So following on from that question, I was really shocked, maybe I misunderstood, the teacher who, she got fired and then ended up working at Starbucks.
No, you didn't misunderstand. That's what happened to her.
But surely that's constructive dismissal. I mean, how could anyone, I don't understand why she got fired and why there was, I know I felt you kind of almost got stable. I thought, what?
No, it's really hardcore.
And she wasn't able to challenge that in a legal
She
way?
was, I think Dawn got to a place, and I think I can speak a little bit for her, not completely, but just watching her progression. She got to a place where she realized that it wasn't a good place for her to be. And although she wanted to do something more than be a barista at Starbucks, she didn't know what else she could do in that town where everyone knew who she was. It was a really, really difficult journey for her. And as she says in the film, she was suicidal. She was, I think, twice while I knew, when we were filming, she tried to commit suicide.
Okay, another one. Along the row and then behind.
Unbelievable. I mean, just completely blown away. Best film I've seen in Sheffield. Like,
Oh, that's so sweet.
and
He has a really good film out there too.
no, my question is in terms of 5 years and the different layers. There's been other films about bullying and issues there, but the layers of this case that you go into the different topics. Like, can you just talk about different? I mean, you've spoken about being neutral, but in terms about the story, that the other aspects and themes of the story that you were really pulled towards, like the white supremacy, the other characters, the influence of the father, like, just could you talk about some of the experience of kind of like different twists and turns the story's taken in the making?
Yeah, of course you would ask me that. One of the story, I have two stories for you. One is when the white supremacists came on set and shut my set down. That was an interesting day. 6'5", white supremacist skinhead said, no one's talking. And I was like, I agree with you. And, I tried to be like friendly, like, hey, we're just, these are all people who care about Brandon. They're just going to be sharing stories. And he's like, no one's talking about
what were you
anything.
filming at that point?
We were going to be talking to Jeremy, Brandon's brother, and some of the kids that grew up on the beach. And they were really excited about sharing all these great stories. And Kendra at that time wasn't excited about me being down there. Because what they say about Silver Strand is there's one way in and one way out. And it's true. There's one road. So the minute you come into town, everybody knows that you're there. So, a couple times we got met with baseball bats in the beginning and pickup trucks and people jumping out of the car. And, it's really a very hardcore area. And, I just kind of, smiled my way out of it. Or just, we'll be back. And, no, you're not. No, okay, we're not. You just kind of zigzag. And then another one was Billy. His dad was like 6'5" and like, I don't know, maybe almost 300 pounds, and sat down next to me, breathing very heavily in court once. And I was like, oh my God. It's like, he died, but it's really hard to describe how big and terrifying Billy was. He was so massive. And, he was just one of those kind of people, he walked into a room and everybody stopped what they were doing. He commanded So I tried to put that in the film because my own experience, I mean, look, I'm like shaking. My own experience of sitting down next to this man was terrifying. Let alone what it must have felt like for Brandon in that household and getting beat up by him like on a daily basis. He was very terrifying, dude. So I think with the white supremacy thing, it was difficult on many levels, but I think the most difficult part was kind of navigating between people who are racist and people who are white supremacist. You know, because there's a huge difference. You know, there's a religion in the white supremacy. It's like a religion. I mean, this is a belief system that goes very deep. And there were a few of them that were like that, but for the most part, they were just racist, you know, and so I could deal with that. It was just, the white supremacists are a little scary.
Okay, to get the mic back, I just wanted to quickly ask while we're on that. So, Billy and Kendra, did they continue to have a relationship after he shot her?
Yeah.
How long did that go on?
Oh, years. Yeah, like 4 or 5 years. How old did she say? I think he was like maybe 7 or 8 when they got divorced, so yeah.
Evening, thank you very much for a very interesting film. But as a Brit, I need to ask, was the fact that a 14-year-old got access to a firearm really not an issue in anything to do with this case?
It's really hardcore, isn't it? It's shocking. Even to us Americans, it's shocking. Yeah, the prosecution basically said you're going to hear a lot of terrible things about the misuse of firearms and how they weren't stored correctly and in a safe way. But we're not going to talk about that. And she just... So, unfortunately, that is a non-issue in this case.
And wasn't included in any of the media coverage that you talked about earlier?
No, that's how shocking the whole... I mean, we can't even pass a law that says a background check, 90% of the country is behind it, and we can't even pass a law on that, so... I don't know. I'm a pacifist, so I don't really get it.
How much time have we got left? Have you got time for one more? 2 more? Okay.
Yes.
If we can get... Yes.
Can I just ask quickly, again, I think it's the last film to do Sheffield's event, that we saw the footage of Brandon's behaviour when he was awaiting trial. Is that ongoing? If he's not getting parole, does that affect when he gets out? Or?
So that was in juvie, and now on his 18th birthday, he was brought to a maximum security adult facility in the middle of nowhere in California. So now it's a totally different ballgame. That was juvie. But there's 2 kind of viewpoints on the fights. When you ask the COs, which are the correctional officers that take care of, Brandon, they loved him. I mean, like a son. Like, they cried on the stand about him. Like, it was shocking in so many ways. They love this kid. They think he's incredible. He graduated in there. Like, they're very close to him. And so what they told me and what they said on the stand was, there are fights in juvie. You have to kind of show them that you're not a punk. And so that's just a part of the life. That's what jail is. So, Brandon was being challenged by these 3 people, is what I heard from the defense. And so he showed them that, who's in charge. That's the life. And then you have the prosecution that says, he's a ticking time bomb and he needs to be locked away for the rest of his life. Where the truth lies is probably somewhere in between, in my opinion.
Okay, we've got one more right in the far corner.
Did you try to speak with Brandon? Did you try to interview him?
I was waiting for this question. At first I wanted to, and then I realized how unbalanced it would be if we gave voice to the boy who killed the boy, and the boy that's not here is not here. So then who speaks on behalf of Larry? He has no voice. That boy took his voice. So I didn't think he really deserves to have a platform, to be honest. At the end of it, that was my decision.
But the letter is very powerful.
Well, that was good enough, right? There you go. There's his voice. Off you go. I mean, it was really tough.
Yeah, was there one more over here or something? Okay.
I have also seen this film before, and I'm here again because I love it so much, so congratulations. It's a masterwork. I mean, the craft is incredible in this film. My question is, what do you feel about Brandon?
I mean, my feelings on Brandon changed. Even watching it tonight, like when that picture pops up of him at 4, I really feel for him. And then, you know, the last picture I saw Kendra like 3 months ago, and she showed me a picture of him, and he looked terrifying. He looked like he's on his way to be Billy. I mean, it's really complicated, and he's only, well, he's 19 now? Yeah, he's 19. I don't think that he's going to have any rehabilitation, so he's not someone that I try not to think about him, because I think that what I hear from the people that know him is who he was. And what I know I know who he is. Does that make sense? So you hear the mother and the brother and all these people talk about with this child, his potential and how incredible he was, but that's not who he is anymore. So I feel really very deeply saddened by that, but I also think he's a very scary human being. And he's not going to get any help. And he's not going to learn what he did was really terribly wrong and sad, that he took someone else's life, and that's disturbing.
Did you get the sense that he really ever kind of knew that, or really kind of, did he ever seem sorry?
It depends who you ask. Again, it's varied, the story's very varied. I mean, I heard, you know, because I was friends with so many of the different kids, and one of the kids who I wanted to talk to sat right next to Larry when he was shot. And she was in and out of juvie, and so was her boyfriend, and her boyfriend was staying next to Brandon, like in juvie, like was like housed next to him, and Brandon couldn't sleep at night and was having nightmares. And so, you know, that's some form of regret and remorse. Did he say the words? I don't know. No one told me that. But I know he can't sleep and he needs medication. It's complicated.
Thank you.
It's really complicated.
Can I just quickly ask, I really saw a lack of contrition on the part of the parents in the film, and I found it kind of shocking. Was there more contrition than you were able to show in that? Or?
You mean to Kendra and Billy? Billy's dead, so I never got a chance to talk to him. Kendra has, I mean, she is just walking guilt. I feel like she was very kind of open about that. For Brandon and for Larry, I think it was shocking how much she understood the loss of Larry. I was shocked by it. I was happy to see it, but I was shocked by it. And with James too.
She didn't seem to take much on in terms of the sort of
Her responsibility?
extremism and her responsibility in terms of being a drug taker, but also allowing her child to be abused and leaving her child with an abuser.
Yes, I showed that because that was also shocking. She's like, well, he didn't get out. It's like, well, yeah, that's kind of your job, but yeah, but she's, I mean, like he said, a walking zombie, and she just was gone.
Can I just ask, is Kendra waiting for him?
Yeah, I mean, they visit, and they did Christmas together. That's the last time I saw her, so it's 6 months ago. And he called, and they, you know, put him on speaker, and they put the tree up together. Like, they do stuff like that.
Is there not a process for screening potential jurors?
There's a huge process for screening potential jurors. These people had to answer 88 questions. It doesn't mean that they necessarily didn't tell little white lies. But I honestly think that they, you know, if you ask them, you know, are you homophobic, they would say no, so. Oh, it's Italian. Thank you so much for coming out. I'm going to be out here if you want to.